Well, hello, welcome to ILoveGay today. And we are jumping into the world of finance. And we are here with Billie Simmons, co-founder of Daylight. How are you?
I'm very well, thanks, Matt. How are you?
Very good. It's great to have you here. You and I have chatted over the last few months, and it's wonderful to see this concept. From what I understand, you're the first and only digital banking platform in the US that's really specifically designed for and by LGBT community. And that really sets you all apart.
It sure does. Yeah, and we're super excited to be the first to go to market.
Yeah. Well, tell us a little bit about that.
Sure. So, as you said, Daylight is a digital banking platform designed for and by the LGBT community, which means that our whole team are LGBT. We are a team of queer millennials solving our own problems.
Yeah.
Um, you know,
Yeah.
a lot of this, a lot of the features are inspired by problems that we ourselves have faced, and using our own experiences and our own privilege, empowering ourselves to solve those problems for our community.
Yeah. Well, a lot of what, from the big picture point of view, as I've read through a lot of your press and so forth. Anyway, it's like Daylight is you're well named because it seems like a lot of what you're doing is kind of turning the lights on on a place in banking in general, which doesn't always feel quite as transparent, and it just sometimes feels a little opaque. And so it seems like you guys are definitely kind of bringing that to the forefront.
Totally. I think that, big banks have gotten to where they are through a lack of transparency. And I think that ultimately we can only, close the LGBT wealth gap by shedding a light on our finances, being transparent, and doing right by our own community. It also works really well on many levels because, we like to say the LGBT community is everywhere the light shines. I think obviously probably talking to a fairly captive audience here, but like there is this, misconception outside of our community that we are small and that we don't have, a ton of economic power, but actually we have $1 trillion in spending power every year. So,
Yeah.
there are a lot of us in the US and around the world, and, we're not going anywhere.
Absolutely. No, it's what's interesting. What kind of sets you guys apart. I know Mastercard has jumped into this a bit as well, but it all boils down to the transgender using their preferred names as opposed to what they were born with, and that's a differentiator. You guys have really kind of taken to the forefront.
Yeah, and there obviously have been a couple of attempts to build this previously, and personally, I am a transgender woman, and I have experienced the process of updating your legal name and trying to get it updated on my bank account and on my credit products, and it is a nightmare. And even some of the solutions out there are not super all inclusive. You might get your chosen name on your card, but you get it sent in a letter still addressed to your dead name. That was something that happened to me. So,
Wow.
I really wanted to make sure that when we built this product, it thought of the entire journey for the person, for the transgender or non-binary individual who's going through this really emotional process. They don't want to see that name any more than they have to the dead name. So
Yeah.
it is taken at the beginning. It is, obviously we still have to perform all of the background checks and KYC processes that, all banking institutions have to perform. But that is the only time you have to see it. And then, the name on the account, the name we use in support and customer comms, letters, and on your card are all the name that you want to have. You can change it as often as you want. You can issue new cards to yourself. So it really empowers the individual to be seen by their banking institution, which I think is something that is completely unique.
Yeah, I agree. But it seems like you guys are getting into some other areas, especially when it comes to financial advice. And I think the first and foremost that comes to mind are LGBT parents and others that sometimes may have felt also not really listened to and spoken to when it comes to understanding some of what's unique to them.
Yeah, I mean, the average cost of just conceiving a child, or the average additional cost, is $55,000 for an LGBT couple.
Yeah.
And it can range as high as $120,000. So these are huge costs that our community are facing, that most of the non-LGBT people out there don't face. And not only that, the experience is very confusing, very alienating. And so, we think that by providing advice that is tailored to the individual, and the individual's experience, we can really help people achieve these huge life goals that they want to achieve.
Yeah. Yeah, I love that. And what's interesting, though, what I really enjoyed was you had this article in Fast Company. I read Fast Company, so I remember seeing that last year and just going, "Wow," because we don't see ourselves represented in publications like that very often. And but one of the takeaways that I noticed from there, which was different, was that I'm hearing more and more, especially during the pandemic, they're doing surveys and finding that the LGBT community is financially less well off than our straight counterparts. And what's interesting is that I kind of grew up in the LGBT business world where we were always told double income, no kids, the dink world, and so that we have, and not so much necessarily more disposable income, but more discretionary income, that since we weren't raising children typically, that we had more money to spend on travel. And but it seems like that is a narrative that's changed, and I know you guys have kind of been a part of that as well.
Yeah, it's kind of an interesting concept, right? Because I do think DINK still exists to some degree for some parts of our community. It's definitely not all of our community, and frankly, I think the latest data from Family Equality is 64% of LGBT millennials want to have children in the next 5 years. Yeah. And so this idea that being LGBT means that you don't have children, or that you don't achieve these kind of or don't want to achieve these, traditional life goals, I think is becoming less and less the case. Part of that is due to legislative changes. There was a time where like our community couldn't have children even if they wanted to, and so yeah, there's a lot of things at play here. We still have we're a huge community, and we still have a very large economic power, $1 trillion, as I think I said previously. But those financial disadvantages still exist, and even in the example of a gay male couple in their 30s who don't have any children, if they wanted to have children, they would have to find this additional income to have children. We're also more likely to be denied a mortgage. We're also less likely to have enough money to live off in retirement, because we're more likely to want to live in a higher cost of living city, because they're usually more inclusive to us. Yeah. And so these financial barriers still exist, even if we do have, potentially more income. And that's only true for a certain part of our community.
Yeah, no, good points. And that's the thing, is that it makes us all think a little bit more, because a lot of times when, sometimes I feel like we were just kind of told what we wanted to hear. And so this is, it's becoming more real. And, but like I said, I love what you guys are doing. And you're launching what in about 2 weeks?
25 days, I believe it is. So just under a month. Yes.
In mid-November, for anybody who's watching this after this date. Yes. So, but no, I think it's amazing, and I look forward to. I know I'm on the wait list for this one. When I go to your website, or any of us do, you have a form where we can enter our email address and at least be kept up to date on the progress.
Yes, website is joindaylight.com. You can sign up for the waitlist. We have just launched our referral mechanism for that waitlist. So there are certain things you can do, like referring a friend or tweeting about us, that will get you pushed up the waitlist. Oh. And then from mid-November, we will be onboarding small cohorts of people month on month. So the higher up the wait list you are, the quicker you'll get access. Yeah. Don't worry, Matt, I'll bump you up to the top, just as we're friends.
I will be there. Well, thank you so much for taking the time to share a bit of your story. And I know I'm excited and looking forward to seeing how everything comes together.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
All right. Take care, Dan.